Namaskar, I am Sadakat Aman Khan, an Indian music personality and author. And in today's evening, I would like to start with Raga Pilu, and I will play a little Alap, Jor, and Jhala. Like within 3 minutes, I'll try to wrap up. So I'm starting with Rag Pilu. How many dimensions can we hold in pixels? Depends on how many pixels are interconnected to form the multitude of ideas to bridge the gap of understanding that what comes from experiences. Today, I, Sadakat Aman Khan, wish to put forth insights on weaving spontaneous notes with classical music. But long before we actually explore the idea of why, we need to know where classical music has come from. That's from the heritage of the country as an evolution of the land with the fusion of various cultures. Long before the West took the forms of rock music and hard metal, the East had already witnessed the musical notes floating freely in nature and went ahead to make original composition to connect at an emotional level where the mind felt lighter against the agonizing burdens of the daily life, and at a physical level where the body can be allowed to sway freely in harmony. These moments are what makes Indian classical music truly appealing, to stay relevant and strong against the sands of time and be a heritage in its original form without distortion. But what about appreciation? I feel somewhere today we have not come to terms to identify ourselves with the classical form of music in the world, with readily available idioms, with sophisticated machines and voice alterations. As I come from a family which has protected this glorious past and its beautiful present, I want to emphasize the significance of Indian classical music, which doesn't just demand appreciation for the art, but also tremendous dedication to master it. As every form of music is great in its own sense, I am going to answer a slightly different question. What's so special about classical music? The beauty of Indian classical music lies in its spontaneity. Indian classical music is the only form of music where a concert performance is based on showcasing your extempo skills. In most other music forms, the art is mostly written, composed, and said. When somebody performs it, they simply perform what has already been predetermined. It is a blend of ritualistic, folk, and cultural expression of the subcontinent and represents music of different genres. At one extreme, it is classical music, whilst at the other extreme, it is a mixture of musical genres of different regions that reflect the diversity of India. The two dominant genres of Indian classical music are North Indian Hindustani classical music and South Indian Carnatic classical music. The key differences between the Hindustani and Carnatic systems are Hindustani music is raga based while Carnatic is kriti based. Me being an expert in Hindustani classical music would focus more on it. Hindustani classical music is very unique, and in order to truly appreciate or learn this style of music, we must have patience and a true love for musical prowess. Although Hindustani music clearly is focused on the vocal performance, a number of musical instruments are associated with it. And of the many instruments is the harmonium. I think harmonium as an instrument is loud. It has a dominant sound and sustained crisp notes. It has the ability to strongly support a vocalist by its rich sound. Many physicists have come up with the fact that harmonium among all the musical instruments is the most suited to experiment on tones. Many great artists have mastered harmonium, giving it a status of the most accompanied instrument. Let me elaborate. In Indian classical music, we have this concept called raga, which occupies approximately 50% of an entire concert. Raga is a melodic framework for improvisation according to a melodic mode in Indian classical music. Of course, singers do a lot of practice before the concert, but what is going to be sung is not presetted. Such extempore presentation is done in many forms. They could take a single line and sing it in a number of ways. They could weave notes that are centered around a single line, or they could weave phrases that are not connected to a song but only to a raga. And this right here is the thing that attracted me towards classical music. We can improvise in every single aspect of our performance. Does anyone here feel that classical music is old man's music, the usual slow form followed by fervor pitch, at times getting monotonous in its effort to emphasize? Well, let me tell you, I have toured many places and met people who have this exact perspective. This perspective stems from the very notions built around it, the monotonous and repetitive lines which choose to appeal at an emotional level, beyond the intellect of reason, to slowly bask in the company of the self, seeking the motion and notes of the music flowing against how many lines the composition actually contains. Is it a myth that needs to be busted? I am afraid not. Because anything that is soulful needs to focus more on the music and the forms of conduct to make the path to the soul and not digging the surface bare. Indian classical music breathes life as much as us for the reason it has such an ability to speak to us, the voice sourced in nature. It demands passion and patience which need practice over the years. Once fulfilled, it allows you to have a lifetime of joy evolving with it. It too willingly works spreading the beauty of classical music. In conclusion, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to my family for making me enthusiastic for spreading the message of love and harmony through Indian classical music. I hope my insights will help us to look at the brighter side of classical music, much of it largely unexplored by the general public, to respect the heritage enough to hold it as a part of their very being, to enjoy and enthusiastically work towards its outreach for the world, not as identification but as a future for the compositions to get an aesthetic appeal over the masses. Thank you.